Hello, I'm Janet Boddy and I'm the course leader for the BA in Childhood and Youth Theory and Practice here at the University of Sussex. The BA builds on cutting-edge research in childhood and youth here in the School of Education and Social Work. In this short film, I want to tell you a little bit about what the course has to offer and introduce you to some key members of our team. First, I'm going to hand over to our head of school, Brian Hudson, who's going to tell you a bit more about our work here at Sussex. Brian.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Hello, I'm Brian Hudson. Welcome to the School of Education and Social Work at the University of Sussex. The BA in Childhood and Youth Theory and Practice is part of a strong portfolio of learning and professional development opportunities from first degrees to master's level qualifications, professional doctorates and PhDs. Our teaching is informed by cutting-edge research on issues of significance in education, childhood and youth, and social work and social care. Staff across the school are known for the quality of their teaching and research locally, nationally and internationally. The BA in Childhood and Youth sits within a vibrant programme of activity linked to the Centre for Innovation and Research in Childhood and Youth at Sussex, with a variety of events that involve our undergraduate and postgraduate students along with key researchers in the field. We also work in a beautiful environment. Whilst just an hour by train to central London, we are situated in rolling parkland and surrounded by the South Downs National Park. But we are just a few minutes away from Brighton and all the fun of the seaside. I hope you'll enjoy hearing more about our BA in Childhood and Youth, and we look forward to welcoming you to our school, where you will find a warm, intellectually stimulating and professionally relevant experience. Janet.
Thank you, Brian. And now I want to go on and tell you a bit about some of the key features of the BA Childhood and Youth Theory and Practice, the things that make this for us such an exciting course. Now, one of the key strengths of the School of Education and Social Work is in international work. That's work globally, but also in Europe. And it's one of the things that's very important for us to bring into the BA, so that you're not just learning about childhood in a UK context, but you're learning about childhood and youth globally. So, for example, in your first year, you'll do a module on children's rights. And as part of that, you'll learn about how rights are theorised, about the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. But what you'll also do is learn about rights in practice within a British classroom, but also the rights of children and young people growing up within war-afflicted countries, children living within conflict zones. So you'll get a much broader understanding of what rights mean within that global context. And we're able to do that because the BA is taught very much from an interdisciplinary perspective. You'll be taught by staff who are psychologists, sociologists, anthropologists, educators and social workers. And you'll also learn about a European theoretical discipline called social pedagogy, something that I myself have been doing research on for the last 12 or 13 years. Social pedagogy can broadly be understood as being about education in the broadest sense of that word. It's about the whole child growing up within society. And we bring that mix of different theoretical perspectives, different understandings together as you go through the 3 years of the course. And because we're mixing those different perspectives together, recognising that there isn't just one way of looking at childhood, that means that the way we teach the course is really important. We use a lot of discussion and debate, small group teaching and creative methods to help our students bring those different perspectives together in understanding childhood and youth. So the students that you see here are actually taking part in a session on early social development and play, but they're using Lego to build representations of their concepts of what good play might look like. So they're actually putting into action that bringing together the different pieces of knowledge that they have. And those creative and practical methods are particularly important because one of the distinctive features of the BA is that we offer you real life experience in work with children and young people. In the first and second year, we have placements in children's services within the local area. And in the third year, you have a chance to develop that work by doing a big project, a dissertation, which can focus on work with children and young people in different children's services. Now I want to introduce you to some core members of our course team, Rachel Thompson and Savasti Melissa Nolas. I met with Rachel and Melissa recently to talk to them about their research with childhood and youth and to learn about how that fits with the things that we learn about within the BA. Rachel, Melissa, hello.
Hi. Hello, Janet.
One of the core components of the BA is a series of modules called Contemporary Debates, which tackle the really big questions in relation to childhood and youth from an interdisciplinary perspective. One question that's getting a lot of attention in the media at the moment, that's all over the newspapers and the TV and the internet, is the question, what's a good childhood for children and young people in society today? And this is one of the questions that we'll explore within the course. So, Rachel, turning to you first, let me ask you that question. What is a good childhood? How would you respond to that based on your research?
Okay, well, first of all, it's a very political question. The whole idea of defining, measuring and then comparing children's well-being in a particular society is come to the heart of government. And for instance, things like the Children's Society now do an annual review on good childhood. And we have indices which track that over time.
So, can I stop you there? Yes. So, the Children's Society are measuring what a good childhood is.
That's right, and it enables us to compare countries. It enables us to look within a country about who's having the good childhood or not. And it's operationalised or demonstrated through indices like the quality and the evenness of childcare, of the level of commercialisation in society, opportunities for outside play, all of which are really important and are really important drivers of services, of course, for children and young people. But strangely enough, they may tell us very little about what it means to be a young person or a child, the experience of childhood.
So how can we approach that as researchers and as students of children and young people? How can we learn about how to understand children's lives better?
Well, the interdisciplinary field of childhood and youth studies is very much about understanding the world, seeing the world from the position of children. So rather than evaluating whether a childhood is good or not, it's really to be able to describe and analyse and understand how children and young people live and how they manage over time, how resourceful they are. So it's a very different kind of approach, often developed using qualitative research, exploring the world from young people's point of view. And I can give an example, if you like, from my own research.
That would be great.
So rather than thinking about children always in relation to services, for example, as pupils or as patients or as at risk, for example, what we've been able to do is look at the whole of a young person's life as a joined up whole and follow young people over time. So we developed a study where we looked at young people over 15 years, following them from the beginning of secondary school right through to young adulthood. And there we found how fascinating, diverse and individual particular childhoods and young people's lives were, but also how privilege and economic privilege may not equate with happiness and well-being always. And what was particularly important to me was that we were able to see the way in which social change, factors in the society, shape childhood in very important ways. For example, the explosion of new technologies, mobile phones, computers, how that really changes what it means to be young, or the disappearance, for example, of the youth labour market, where there's no longer work for young people. You can't anymore leave school at 16 and become an adult in the way that you could in the past.
So one of the things for me that suggests is that we can't say there is one good childhood that all children should have that's the same. So in understanding children and young people and work with children and young people, we need to think about the diversity of children's lives. And that for me is one thing that's really exciting, because I do a lot of cross-national research, working across countries, and I'm very interested in how children's lives and how the services that children and young people use are situated within the social and political context of those countries. So that diversity in a way really speaks to how we then work with children and young people in a way that attends to the differences between them, their individuality, and what they bring to that interaction. And that, Melissa, I think is something that ties in with the work that you've been doing with young people. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, so a lot of my work is around participation, and for all the reasons that you mentioned, this is why participation is very important. So participation is about involving children in decisions and services that affect them, and also engaging them in wider societal matters that are of concern to all of us.
What sorts of things?
I'll give you some examples. So participation can happen in, or what we call participation can happen in quite simple ways. So this might be, for instance, thinking about a young person visiting the GP. So participation is about, for instance, the GP talking to the young person, explaining what's happening in language that's meaningful to them, rather than talking through them or over them to the parent or guardian. So participation is really about taking children's views on board, about understanding their experiences, but importantly, it's about taking those views and experiences seriously.
That's great. So it's about how we listen to children, respect children in their everyday lives.
Yes, indeed, yes.
Is it also partly about giving children more responsibilities?
Yes, absolutely. So other ways in which, so I gave you one example of participation, and that was quite a simple one, but we've got more complex examples of participation. So we might think of the services that we deliver to children. The example and the area I know quite well is children and adolescent mental health services. So there are a number of services around the country that have taken participation very seriously and who involve children in, for instance, recruitment. So they might...
Recruitment of staff?
Yes, yes. So they might be involved in recruitment panels, and asking, for instance, if a clinical psychologist is being recruited, or even a social worker or a professional, being in that panel and interviewing them and bringing the child's perspective to that recruitment process. It might be about creating formal structures whereby children participate in the evaluation of services.
So those are really exciting things to be involved in.
Yeah.
Is it difficult for children and young people to do things like that?
Absolutely. Participation is very exciting, and if it's facilitated well, it can bring about real new knowledge, so things that adults and experts have not considered before, and knowledge that could make children and young people's lives better, as well as the lives and the practices of those who work with them. However, I don't want to paint just a rosy picture, because of course there's lots of challenges and problems with participation. There's lots that we don't know yet and lots that we don't do very well. And these are all the exciting issues that I hope that we'll get into.
But that's also because this is a very new and developing area, isn't it?
Indeed,
so it's
indeed. So since a lot of what we know and a lot of the practices around participation have come into the fore since the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child in 1989, and since then a lot of these practices have been developed. But yes, you're absolutely right, they're very, very new.
So I think these are really exciting questions. They're big questions, but we've got 3 years within the BA to really unpack these along with the students that we're speaking to. So it's an exciting challenge ahead for all of us, I think. Thank you both very much for talking to me.
Janet.
Now I want to go on to tell you a bit more about some of the career pathways that you might choose to follow once you've completed the BA in Childhood and Youth Theory and Practice. We want to prepare our students to follow a variety of possible routes to give you flexibility within a clear professional focus in your work. So, for example, we know that some of our students want to go on to primary education or into social work. And at Sussex, we offer postgraduate professional qualifications for people who want to follow those routes. At the same time, some of our students will want to go directly into work with children and young people. Those wanting to work with older children might go into youth work or mentoring within schools, for example. Those wanting to work with younger children might follow the early years professional graduate pathway. Others might want to go into work in parenting and family support. Because the course has an international focus, students who want to go on and work overseas are well prepared. For example, those who might want to go on and work in charities that work with children and young people. There are also options within the UK for students who want to go on and work in children's charities, one of the many charities that we have. But equally, students working in the UK might want to go on to policy work, whether working in local or central government or in the charitable sector, advising on policies for child and family services. We know that some of our students want to go on to further study, and there are a variety of exciting options for students who want to stay on here at Sussex. Some of those students will want to go on to doctoral research, but we also offer a variety of master's programmes. There's a Master's in Childhood and Youth Studies linked to the Centre for Innovation and Research in Childhood and Youth that Brian mentioned earlier on. There's also a Master's in International Education and Development for people who are interested in international career. For students who want to go on and work in child psychology, there's the option of doing the Master's in Experimental Psychology here at Sussex, which then allows you to follow doctoral routes to qualification as an educational or clinical psychologist. To find out more about the programme, you can get in touch with me directly, or you can contact our admissions tutor, Vanessa Regan. I want to go over to Vanessa now, who's talking to one of the students who's followed the Masters in Childhood and Youth Studies. Vanessa.
Thank you, Janet. And I'm here with Rugazian Masoué, who's one of our Master's students. Rugazian, Childhood and Youth Studies is a really interdisciplinary area. What's interested you in this field?
Well, the field is quite rich of a lot of issues to do with children and young people. And my background, I've been working with children and young people in Tanzania for about over 5 years. And the idea to grow more in this field came late in 2006. And I thought of developing my skills and knowledge so that I can offer more to young people and children back in my country. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And what have you found most interesting while you've been at Sussex?
Generally, I was very much impressed by the course itself, getting to learn a lot about childhood, but also I was very much happy being equipped with skills on child rights. And we had a lot with child psychology, especially in education. All these kind of skills for me were quite a lot of resource to take home and put more effort helping children and young people.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa. And thank you for taking the time to watch our short film about the BA in Childhood and Youth Theory and Practice. We'd be delighted to welcome you here to Sussex and really happy to tell you more about the course if you've got any questions. So please don't hesitate to get in touch. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye.